Welcome to Derek the Counsellor TV. I am Derek Leung, your host and counsellor. On this show, we're going to explore the A to Z of mental health, from anxiety to depression, from parenting to relationships. And since I'm a male, Australian, Asian Christian, I'll also explore how some of these cultural issues can influence mental well-being as well. So let's get into today's show. This is the third of a series of videos about busting depression myths. In the previous videos, I busted some of the unhelpful myths that float around regarding depression. Things like you have depression because you don't have enough faith, you have depression because you don't pray hard enough, or not trying hard enough, or not being a good enough Christian. I also spoke about the causes of depression and some of the historical Judeo-Christian figures having experienced depression. In today's episode, and the next episode, I would like to talk about antidepressants and some of the myths that float around regarding antidepressants. Some of these views are secular, some are particular Christian oriented. When it comes to making a decision about taking antidepressants as a possible treatment for depression, clients can often feel quite fearful, confused, and even guilty about taking antidepressants. Often it is a false guilt, exaggerated fear and confusion from misinformation and misconception. Much of the time it comes down to just these statements. 1, I don't like to take antidepressants because I want something natural. Sometimes it is a misinformed idea that natural products are just always safer and more effective. And the second is, I don't want to take antidepressants because God will heal me. And there's guilt in choosing a secular or a medical solution over a faith-based solution, and this I'll explore in the next episode. And so today I would like to explore these statements as a pharmacist, former pharmacist, as a counselor, and as a Christian. So let's talk about I don't want to take antidepressants because I want something natural. When someone says this, there are probably two reasons. One is people think something natural is safer, and or secondly, people think something natural works just as well as synthetic antidepressants. So the questions are really, are natural alternatives actually safer, or natural alternatives just as effective? So let's define natural alternatives. Natural alternatives are often called complementary and alternative medicines, CAMs for short. CAMs for depression come in 3 broad categories. First is behavioral and lifestyle adaptation. Second is herbal supplementation, and thirdly is nutraceuticals. When we talk about behavioral and lifestyle modification, we're talking namely about meditation. We are often referring to mindfulness-based meditation, and research supports mindfulness meditation as an adjunctive therapy to psychotherapy as a treatment of depression. Therefore, it is not considered as a first-line therapy or therapy that you would use on its own to treat depression. In saying this, a prominent psychotherapist and teacher, Dr. John Wort from the US, whom I have the most regard for, advocates the use of seeds to treat clients with anxiety and depression. SEED stands for sleep, exercise, educate, diet, and socialize. He has found seeds to be as effective in treating mild to moderate depression as antidepressants. The only caveat in advocating this is that it would take quite a bit of constant coaching from a therapist to keep a client on track. As I've found, most clients who struggle with depression tend to struggle with a lack of energy and motivation, and they have trouble in concentrating as well, which I think becomes a bit of a catch-22. If the clients manage to persist, then seeds will probably do well, but if they're struggling to persist, then seeds may not work as well as you would hope. I would actually lean towards advising clients to use antidepressants initially to alleviate the symptoms of depression, namely the lack of motivation and energy, and engage with seeds to bolster the effect of antidepressants, and perhaps for the long term, once the client ceases antidepressants. Herbal supplementation. Research have been done on many different herbs and traditional remedies. The list is long, but some of the more popular ones that people tend to go for are Johns Wort, which is also called hypericum, saffron, lavender, ginseng, hops, passion flower, and vitex, and a few others. Many of these herbs there is, amongst all these herbs, there's only one herb that has had the most reliable and promising research results, and that is St. Johns Wort. Now concentrate mainly on St. Johns Wort today only. Research would say that St. Johns Wort is as effective in treating mild to moderate depression as SSRIs. So SSRIs are like the citalopram, which is trade name Cipramil, escitalopram, which is Lexapro, fluoxetine, which is Prozac, sertraline, which is Zoloft, and related to Effexors, things such as Prestige and Cymbalta. Research has also found that St. Johns Wort has a lower rate of withdrawal due to better adverse drug effect profile when compared to patients taking synthetic antidepressants. This means that St. Johns Wort has a more tolerable side effect profile than antidepressants. But before you jump to concluding that St. Johns Wort is the go, just hold on. This does not mean that St. Johns Wort is side effect free. In fact, St. Johns Wort has many similar side effects to many of the antidepressants on the market. This is because St. Johns Wort contains many active components that work on multiple receptor sites, just like your synthetic antidepressants. And they work on sites such as the serotonergic, dopaminergic, and noradrenergic receptor sites. The reason why St. Johns Wort gets a good mention is because it has less less severe side effects, and that it makes more tolerable when compared to synthetic antidepressants. Although St. Johns Wort has good evidence, in general there are 3 disadvantages in taking herbal meds that we need to keep in mind. The first is lack of evidence in human trials. The second is lack of good design in studies. The third is that herbal medication is tricky in getting consistency in the amount of active ingredients in a given dose, and we call that standardization. So the discussion whether herbal medicine is an alternative to antidepressants is not as straightforward as you might think. And the next class of CAMs are the nutraceuticals. Nutraceuticals are nutrients that target certain key neurological pathways that may augment the effect of antidepressants. Nutraceuticals include products such as folate, tryptophan, SAMe, and omega-3. Studies have shown that SAMe, methylfolate, omega-3, and vitamin D to show promise in augmenting antidepressants. These nutraceuticals are not considered to be primary or first-line treatments. The key word here when we are talking about nutraceuticals is augment to an antidepressant. These nutraceuticals' role is to help the antidepressants that you're taking. So what does it all mean for herbal alternatives and nutraceuticals? Are they just as effective? Are they safer than antidepressants? In short, we only know St. Johns Wort is as effective as antidepressants in mild to moderate depression. And we only know that St. Johns Wort has a better tolerated side effect profile. But are these 2 points, safety and effectiveness, the only consideration that you need to take into account in making such an important decision that is going to impact your mental health? In my opinion, the answer is no. Because I think the first point is that you cannot generalize the profiles in Johns Wort across all complementary medicines when it comes to comparing with antidepressants. When you start taking medication, you need to take into account monitoring. Monitoring is about dose adjustment when required, medication type adjustment, and disease state progression. When you pursue natural alternatives, often people self-medicate. People who self-medicate with natural alternatives tend to not engage with their doctors, pharmacists, and other well-trained health professionals in monitoring their progress. Depression is tricky. It can have ebbs and flow. It is hard to judge on your own. A lot of time you can't see the woods from the tree. I've had clients where depression can deteriorate so bad that they require hospitalization because the client could become so severely suicidal, or just the willingness to keep up with the daily living activities goes almost down to zero. Things like even bathing and eating. If you're not having a regular contact with a GP or a pharmacist who would take the time to assess the progression of your depression, consequently, you can leave yourself unsupported, unchecked if it deteriorates. It will be a long road back if you let yourself slip. The other issue is, if you're open to antidepressants, your doctor has a much larger arsenal of medication to choose from if one medication does not work. In my past experiences as a pharmacist, when patients experience difficulty in side effect or the med is not effective, the doctor will change the medication and switch until they found a medication that suited the patient. If you're closed off to the idea of synthetic antidepressants, you close off almost all your options in treating your depression, which is not the smart option. So what am I saying? It is safer for you to stay away from self-medicating because there could be many twists and turns in your recovery from depression. Often these twists and turns are too difficult to navigate on your own. Being open to antidepressants gives you option for the best treatments options. And when you take antidepressants, you can and still should engage in non-antidepressants alternative to assist you in your recovery. Things such as counseling, medication, even taking nutraceuticals and keeping a healthy lifestyle should be part of your regimen. So I hope this has helped. If you have more questions about antidepressants, I encourage you to talk to your GP and your pharmacist. Your pharmacist is the medication expert and your antidepressant specialist. And so if you like what you've heard today, please subscribe and share your video through the favorite social media platforms that you love. Also, you will find your show notes on my website and other resources as well. All you have to do is to go to www.kaichristiancounseling.com and click on the exclusive content tab, enter your email in the form, and it will allow you access to many helpful resources that could help you on your journey to maintain mental well-being. So God bless. I'll see you in the next video.